The insurance office smelled like lemon cleaner and cold coffee, the kind that had been sitting in a warmer since sunrise. The building itself was all glass and brushed metal, the lobby too bright, too sterile, designed to feel efficient, not human. Michael Harris stepped inside and let the door close behind him with a soft hydraulic hiss. He was dry now, mostly. The storm had faded to a steady drizzle, but his coat still carried that damp city rain smell. He tightened his grip on the slim folder under his arm and checked the time on his phone. 9:12 a.m. He'd taken the earliest appointment they offered because he wanted this handled fast. The longer a claim dragged on, the more it didn't feel like a process and started to feel like punishment. A receptionist behind a curved desk looked up. White, late 20s, glossy hair, a smile that looked practiced and light. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment?" "Yes," Michael said. "Michael Harris, 9 o'clock, with Denise Parker." The receptionist's fingers moved across her keyboard. Her smile stayed in place, but her eyes flicked up and down the way they sometimes did, like they were searching for something that matched what they expected to see. "Okay, yes, I see you." She handed him a small visitor badge. "Third floor, suite 312. Michael nodded and walked past rows of brochure stands. Protect your home, protect your family, peace of mind starts here. The words felt like a joke when peace was exactly what you had to beg for. The elevator took him up in near silence. His reflection in the mirrored wall looked calm, composed. Dark coat, neat beard, eyes steady. He'd learned over years how to wear calm like armor. When the elevator doors opened, the third floor had the same clinical brightness. White walls, frosted glass, framed posters of smiling families who looked like they'd never been told no as a default. Suite 312 was at the end of the hall. Inside, the waiting room was small, quiet, and filled with the soft hum of an air vent. A flat-screen TV played muted morning news. Two white men in polos sat scrolling on their phones. A white woman in a blazer flipped through a magazine without turning pages, like she was waiting for someone else's time to matter. Michael checked in again and sat down. 5 minutes passed. 10. At 15 minutes, the frosted glass door opened and a woman stepped out with a clipboard. White, early 40s, sharp bob haircut, eyes that looked like they'd been trained to find loopholes. Her badge read, "Denise Parker, Claims Specialist." "Mr. Harris," she called. Michael stood. "That's me." She didn't smile as she led him down a short hallway into a small office with a desk, 2 chairs, and a framed certificate that screamed credibility. A plant sat in the corner, barely alive. Denise gestured at the chair opposite her. Michael sat, placed his folder carefully on his lap, and waited. Denise opened a file on her computer. The click of her mouse sounded too loud. "Okay," she said. "You're here regarding an auto claim from last week." "Yes." Michael's voice was even. "Hit and run. My car was parked outside my apartment. Someone sideswiped the rear quarter panel and scraped the door. I filed a police report, I submitted photos, and I uploaded the estimate from the repair shop." Denise nodded like she was listening, but her eyes stayed on the screen. "And you're requesting coverage under comprehensive?" "It's under collision," Michael corrected gently. "The policy covers it. I confirmed it with your hotline before I even filed." Denise's fingers paused. She glanced up at him for the first time like she'd just noticed he had a face. "Right," she said. "Well, we've reviewed your submission." Michael felt his body sharpen, the way it always did when someone said reviewed like it meant judged. Denise folded her hands. "At this time, the claim is being denied." For a second, the air in the room went thin. Michael blinked once. "Denied?" Denise's tone stayed smooth, as if she were explaining the weather. "Yes, there are discrepancies that indicate potential misrepresentation." Michael didn't move. "What discrepancies?" Denise turned her monitor slightly, not enough for him to read, but enough to make it feel like the truth was on her side. "The damage pattern is inconsistent with the scenario described. Michael's voice stayed low, controlled. I described exactly what happened. Someone hit it while it was parked. That's consistent with the damage. Denise's lips pressed together. It may be consistent to you, but our initial assessment suggests pre-existing damage. Michael felt heat rise in his chest, but he kept it contained. That's not true. Denise shrugged lightly. We can't approve a claim when evidence suggests the damage may not be from the reported incident. Michael sat forward a fraction. Evidence? What evidence? Denise clicked her mouse a few times. Your photos. My photos show the damage, Michael said. From the morning after it happened, with timestamps. Denise's eyes flicked up again, and something in her expression shifted. Subtle, but there. Not interest, not concern. Suspicion. There's also the issue of timing, she added. Michael's jaw tightened. Explain. Denise leaned back. Your policy began recently. Michael's eyes narrowed. I've had this policy for over a year. Denise blinked, then corrected herself without apology. Your current coverage tier began recently. Michael understood immediately what she was doing. Pulling threads, looking for a narrative that made denial feel justified. He'd seen it in other places, other rooms, when the default assumption about you was that you were trying to get away with something. Michael opened his folder and slid across a printed copy of his policy declarations page, the police report number, the repair estimate, and a set of printed photos. I brought everything, he said calmly, because I suspected this might happen. Denise's eyes dropped to the papers like they were inconvenient. She looked at the photos. These were taken by you? Yes. And uploaded through the portal? Yes. Denise tapped one printed photo with a fingernail. Photos can be altered. Michael stared at her. Are you suggesting I faked a sideswipe? I'm saying, Denise replied, voice cool, we see fraudulent claims every day. It's our job to protect the company. Michael held her gaze. And your first instinct is that I'm fraud. Denise's mouth tightened. I didn't say that. You didn't have to, Michael said quietly. A brief silence spread between them. Denise shifted, then reached into a drawer. If you'd like to appeal, we can request an independent adjuster review, but I'm telling you now, it's unlikely to change. Michael exhaled slowly. He could feel the pressure behind his eyes. Not tears, not yet, but the weight of having to prove his own truth. Request it, he said. Denise raised a brow. Are you sure? It can take weeks. I'm sure. Denise nodded, typed something, and printed a form. Sign here. Michael signed without shaking. He'd learned not to give them that satisfaction. Denise slid the form back into a folder and stood as if the meeting was already over. An adjuster will review the evidence and contact you. Michael stood too, gathering his papers. One more thing. Denise paused, her hand on the door. Michael's voice was calm, but there was steel in it now. Who reviewed my photos the first time? Denise's expression went blank. Our internal team. Names, Michael said. I want names. Denise's eyes hardened. We don't provide that information. Michael nodded slowly. Then I want a written explanation of the specific discrepancy you claim to see and the policy clause you're using to deny me. Denise's smile returned, thin, sharp. You'll receive a denial letter in the portal. Michael looked at her for a long beat. Fine, he said. I'll wait for the adjuster. As he walked out, he felt the receptionist's eyes track him, the waiting room's quiet momentarily sharpening, like people were sensing tension without knowing why. In the elevator down, Michael stared at his reflection again. He wasn't angry because an insurance claim was denied. He was angry because the denial came too easily, as if someone had been waiting for an excuse. Outside, the drizzle had become mist. Michael got into his car, sat for a moment, and opened the portal on his phone. He scrolled to the uploaded photos. They were the same ones he'd printed. Clear shots, multiple angles, a wide photo showing the street sign near his building, the dented panel, the long scrape, the fragments of white paint transferred onto his black car. He tapped one image to enlarge it. Then he noticed something he hadn't paid attention to before. A small detail at the bottom of the file name. Not the visible timestamp. Something else. Michael's eyes sharpened. Because Michael didn't just work in consulting, he'd spent years solving problems that other people pretended were too complicated. Patterns, systems, contradictions. And right now, this whole denial felt like a contradiction. He saved the images to his phone, then opened his laptop when he got home. If they wanted to call him a liar, he was going to bring receipts so precise they couldn't look away. By evening, Michael's apartment felt like a command center. He sat at his kitchen table with his laptop open, a mug of tea gone cold beside him, and a second screen propped up on a stack of books. On the table, printed photos, repair estimate, the police report receipt, his policy documents, and a notepad filled with timestamps and small arrows connecting thoughts. Most people assumed pictures were simple. You take them, you send them, and the image is the image. But Michael knew better. Every photo carried a shadow copy of the moment it was taken, information hidden beneath the surface. The camera model, the lens, the date, the time, sometimes GPS location, sometimes even editing history, metadata. And if Denise Parker was going to imply the photos were manipulated, Michael was going to use the one thing that didn't care about anyone's assumptions. Data. He downloaded the original photo files from the insurance portal, not the compressed previews, the originals. He named them carefully. IMG1_original, IMG2_original, and so on. He didn't want confusion later. Confusion was where people like Denise built their stories. He opened the first file and pulled up the details. Time taken: 7:18. AM device, iPhone location, on coordinates, present. Michael's eyes narrowed. He checked the second file. Time taken: 7:19 AM, same device, same coordinates. Third file. Time taken: 7:21 AM, same coordinates. Everything matched what he remembered. Early morning, before work, when he'd walked outside and felt his stomach drop at the sight of the scraped paint. He leaned back slightly and let himself breathe. So why did Denise act like the photos were suspicious? He opened the denial message that had already appeared in the portal. Fast, like it had been ready. Claim denied. Evidence indicates damage inconsistent with reported incident and/or possible pre-existing damage. No specifics, no clear reference, just a vague accusation dressed up as policy. Michael's jaw tightened again. He clicked into the uploaded files section, and that's when he saw it. There were two sets of images attached to his claim. One set labeled Customer Upload, and another set labeled Adjuster Photos. Michael froze. He hadn't met an adjuster. No one had come to inspect his car. No one had scheduled anything. Denise had just said an adjuster would be assigned after his appeal. So why were there adjuster photos already in the file? Michael clicked the first adjuster image. It showed his car. But something was off. The angle was wrong, not his usual. The lighting too bright, and the background. Michael zoomed in. In the reflection on the car's paint, he could see a storefront sign. He recognized it immediately, not because it was famous, but because it was nowhere near his building. It was near the repair shop. His mind snapped into focus. He opened the file details. Time taken: 3:46 p.m. date, 2 days after the incident. Location: GPS coordinates. Not his apartment. Not even close. Michael's throat went dry. He checked the next adjuster photo. Time taken: 3:47 p.m. Same location. Another. Time taken: 3:48 p.m. Same location. Michael stared at his screen, feeling something cold and sharp forming in his chest. These photos had been taken at the repair shop, days later, when his car had already been moved for an estimate. If an internal reviewer used the adjuster photos to judge the damage pattern, they could claim it didn't match a parked hit and run because the context had been changed. Different lighting, different angle, different background, different story. And suddenly, Michael understood the shape of the trap. If they could blur the timeline, they could blur the truth. He opened a new document and started writing. Customer photos. Taken morning after incident at apartment. GPS confirms adjuster photos. Taken days later at repair shop. GPS confirms denial. Claims inconsistency/pre-existing damage. Possibility: internal team used adjuster photos incorrectly as primary evidence, ignoring customer upload context. Or worse, adjuster photos were added to build a narrative for denial. Michael didn't jump to the worst conclusion yet, but his instincts whispered anyway, because this wasn't just confusion. This looked like someone had decided the story before they checked the facts. Michael gathered everything into a clean packet. Screenshot of portal showing 2 photo categories. Metadata exports for customer photos. Metadata exports for adjuster photos. Map snapshots showing GPS locations. Timeline of events with police report. Time and repair estimate. Appointment time. A short, calm statement explaining the mismatch. Then he did one more thing. He called the repair shop. A man answered, voice rough like he'd been working with metal all day. Gonzalez Auto. Hi, Michael said. This is Michael Harris. I was there earlier this week for an estimate. I have a quick question. Did an insurance adjuster come by to take photos of my car? A pause. The man sighed. You mean from your insurance? Yes. No, the man said. Nobody came. We took our own photos for the estimate, but no adjuster. If an adjuster comes, they usually schedule. Michael's pulse beat once, hard. Did anyone from the insurance company request your photos? Yeah, the man said. Someone emailed and asked for them. We sent them. Michael closed his eyes for half a second. So the adjuster photos were likely the shop's photos, labelled in the system as adjuster evidence. And that label mattered because it gave the photos a different authority. It let Denise say, our assessment, as if it had been done professionally in the field. Michael thanked the man and hung up. He stared at the packet he'd built. This was no longer just a denied claim. This was a system that could twist facts by simply mislabeling a file. And the worst part? If Michael didn't catch it, most people wouldn't. They'd accept the denial and move on, thinking maybe they did something wrong, maybe the company had reasons, maybe they didn't have the energy to fight. Michael had energy, not endless, but enough. The next morning, he returned to the insurance office. Same lemon cleaner, same cold coffee smell, same bright, sterile calm. The receptionist looked up again, same smile. Good morning. I need to speak with Denise Parker, Michael said. The smile faltered. Do you have an appointment? No, Michael said calmly. But I have documentation that affects my claim decision. The receptionist hesitated, then picked up the phone. Minutes later, Denise appeared at the door of her office. Her expression was already annoyed, like Michael was breaking a rule by refusing to disappear. Mr. Harris, she said, voice tight. I told you the appeal process. I'm not here to argue, Michael said. I'm here to correct your record. Denise's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Michael held up his folder. You denied my claim based on discrepancies in photos. Your file includes 2 sets of images, mine and adjuster photos. Those so-called adjuster photos were taken at the repair shop 2 days later. Their metadata, GPS, and timestamps proves it. If your internal team treated those as incident scene photos, your denial is based on a false timeline. For the first time, Denise's face shifted. Not guilt, not empathy, alarm. She glanced at the folder like it was a weapon. That's not something customers usually... Usually what? Michael asked, calm but sharp. Usually don't understand, usually don't check. Usually just accept being called suspicious? Denise's mouth tightened. You're making assumptions. No, Michael said. I'm presenting evidence. He stepped forward and placed the packet on her desk. Denise flipped open the first page, then the second. Her eyes moved faster as she read the metadata entries and saw the maps. A faint flush rose in her cheeks. This doesn't necessarily mean, she started. It means the denial justification is wrong, Michael said evenly. And it means I want my claim reopened with a different reviewer. Not you, not the internal team that mislabeled evidence. A supervisor! Denise's voice dropped. Mr. Harris, this is getting complicated. Michael looked her dead in the eyes. It got complicated when you implied I might be committing fraud. Silence. Denise swallowed, then stood abruptly. I'm going to get my manager. She left the office. Michael stood there, feeling the building's quiet pressing around him. He could hear the receptionist typing out front, a printer humming somewhere, the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. A few minutes later, a man entered with Denise. White, late 40s, expensive suit, the kind of person who carried authority like it was his natural scent. Mr. Harris, he said, offering a hand. I'm Thomas Avery, Regional Claims Supervisor. Michael shook his hand once. Thank you for coming. Thomas sat and gestured for Michael to sit too. Denise remained standing, arms crossed, jaw tight. Thomas looked at the packet. Denise says you have concerns about the denial. Michael nodded. Not concerns. Proof of error. He walked Thomas through it carefully. Incident date and time. His photos and metadata proving location at his apartment. The so-called adjuster photos actually taken at the repair shop days later. The possibility that the wrong set was used to assess the incident context. The repair shop confirming no adjuster came in person. Thomas's expression shifted as he listened, first neutral, then focused, then troubled. When Michael finished, Thomas exhaled slowly. I see, Thomas said, and his tone changed. Less corporate, more real. This should not have happened. Denise's head snapped up. We followed procedure. Thomas held up a hand. Procedure doesn't excuse incorrect labeling of evidence. Denise's lips pressed into a hard line. Thomas looked at Michael. Mr. Harris, I'm going to personally reopen your claim. We will remove any improperly labelled materials, re-evaluate based on correct incident documentation, and expedite a new decision. Michael nodded once. Good, Thomas continued, and I want to apologise for the way this was handled. If the denial language implied fraud without clear basis, that's unacceptable. Michael held Thomas's gaze. I also want a note in the file that my photos were valid and that the denial was based on misinterpretation of metadata and timeline. Thomas nodded. Agreed. Denise looked like she wanted to argue, but the supervisor's presence was a ceiling. Michael felt something loosen in his chest. Not victory, not yet, but a shift. Truth had weight, and he'd brought enough of it to bend the room. Thomas stood. You'll receive an updated status today. I'll make sure you don't have to chase this. Michael gathered his folder. Thank you. As he turned to leave, Thomas added, and Mr. Harris, if you experience anything like this again, contact my office directly. Michael paused at the door and looked back. Respectfully, he said, I shouldn't need a direct line to be treated fairly. Thomas's expression tightened with something like shame. You're right, he said quietly. Michael walked out into the lobby. The receptionist watched him go, eyes curious. The posters about peace of mind lined the walls like a performance. But for the first time in a while, Michael felt something close to peace anyway, not because the system suddenly became good, but because he refused to let it quietly decide who he was. Later that afternoon, his phone buzzed. Claim approved, payment processing. Michael stared at the notification for a long moment. He didn't smile right away, because approval wasn't the happy ending. Truth was. He took a screenshot, saved it, and then opened a new note on his phone. A note titled, "How to Fight Back When They Say No," because he knew he wasn't the only one. And if they were going to keep building systems that depended on people staying tired, Michael was going to make sure more people learned where the cracks were.